The Institutes of the Christian Religion by John Calvin, Chapter 11, Section 4. Images and pictures are contrary to Scripture. Thus saying, the idols of the heathen are silver and gold, the works of man's hands, has the same purpose. For from the material of which they are made, the prophet infers that they are not gods, whose images are of gold or silver. And he takes it for granted that all we conceive concerning God in our own minds is an insipid fiction. He mentions gold and silver rather than clay or stone, that neither the splendor nor the price may win reverence for the idols. Yet he concludes, in general, that nothing is less commendable than for gods to be fashioned from any dead matter. Meanwhile he insists no less on the other point, that mortals are carried away by too much folly and rashness, who, precariously drawing a fleeting breath from moment to moment, dare to confer God's honor upon idols. Man will be compelled to confess that he is a transient being, yet he will want to be counted as God a piece of metal, to whose deity he himself gave origin. For whence came the beginning of idols but from the opinion of men? Most just is that profane poet's mockery. Once I was a little fig tree trunk, a useless bit of wood, when the workman in doubt whether he should make a stool prefer that I be a god, etc. So then the earthly mannequin, who almost every moment breathed out his life, by his own cleverness would transfer God's name and honor to a dead trunk. But because that Epicurean in witty jest had no regard for religion, let us pass over his witticism and those of men like him. Rather, let the prophets reprove, sting us, indeed transfix us, that they are utterly foolish who from the same wood warm themselves, kindle a fire to bake bread, roast or boil meat, and fashion a god before whom they prostrate themselves as supplicants to pray. Therefore he elsewhere not only accuses them as guilty before the law, but reproaches them for not learning from the foundations of the earth. For surely there is nothing less fitting than to wish to reduce God, who is immeasurable and incomprehensible, to a 5-foot measure. And yet custom shows this monstrous thing, which is openly hostile to the order of nature, to be natural to man. Now we ought to bear in mind that Scripture repeatedly describes superstitions in this language. They are the works of man's hands, which lack God's authority. This is done to establish the fact that all the cults men devise of themselves are detestable. The prophet heaps up fury in a psalm because man endowed with the intelligence to know that all things are moved solely by God's power call upon dead and insensible things for help. But because corruption of nature drives all peoples as well as each one individually to such great madness, finally the Spirit fulminates with a dire threat. Let those who make them and those who trust in them become like them. But we must note that a likeness no less than a graven image is forbidden. Thus is the foolish scruple of the Greek Christians refuted. For they consider that they have acquitted themselves beautifully if they do not make sculptures of God, while they wantonly indulge in pictures more than any other nation. But the Lord forbids not only that a likeness be erected to him by a maker of statues, but that one be fashioned by any craftsman whatever, because he is thus represented falsely and with an insult to his majesty.